So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the session on time. Before we proceed, I request everyone to please put themselves on mute so that nobody gets disturbed, and also rename yourself with your name and your company name and your city name so that we can be able to mark your attendance. And the other thing is that we will take up the question and answer session after Mr. Kannan finishes with his presentation so that there's no disturbance. So we start our session for today. So let's start the day by making some norms for the program so that we are able to create a successful community for everyone. The norms of the program are to actively engage and listen, being on time always, respecting each other's views, providing genuine feedback, being brutally honest. When in doubt, reach out, always ask if you have queries, being patient, supportive, and vulnerable, always inform, complete assignments, and please keep your videos on as far as possible. Now, coming on to things we will not do. We will not compare, underestimate, or judge. And we will not interrupt or give harsh comments and not be late and miss sessions. Now, so today's learning session is focused on revenue model and financial projections, which is being led by Mr. Kannan Gopalakrishnan. Mr. Kannan is a seasoned business coach and mentor with over 25 years of corporate experience in India and Southeast Asia. He specializes in helping startups achieve profitable growth and impact in both commercial and social sectors. Mr. Kannan's career includes significant roles in consumer goods and FMCG with expertise in general management, marketing, sales, distribution, and retail. He currently serves as a mentor at NSR Cell IM Bangalore, guiding numerous startups. Notably, he has spent a significant portion of his career with Adidas, where he held the positions of managing director in Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia. I request everyone to please mute yourself, please. Yeah, sorry, sir. So, he specializes in helping startups. Notably, he has spent a significant portion of his career with Adidas, where he held the positions of managing director in Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia, as well as head of retail. He has also mentored the Nokia India Extended Leadership Team. Educationally, Mr. Kannan holds an MBA from IIM Calcutta and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Regional Engineering College, Tiruchirappalli. He further enriched his expertise by participating in the Adidas Leadership Program at INSEAD and completing training as a coach from the Neuro Leadership Group in Singapore. Over to you, Mr. Kannan.
Thank you, Madhulika, for that extended introduction. Thank you all for joining on this Friday evening. This is my first session with the STEP initiative. So I think you got a gist of my experience. I also did a startup in the US and decided to, of course, shut shop after about 18 months because I realized that would have meant I would have had to move to the US. And the whole point of my wife and I moving back to India was to be able to be closer to our parents on both sides. And so yeah, I think all of us do some things and then recognize along the way that that's not in sync with what we really wanted to do. So what I'll try to do is to share my knowledge and experience on that. Hopefully some of it is useful to you. I'm sure most of you already know most of the things. You're all seasoned entrepreneurs who are already running your own businesses. I'm sure you're doing some of the things that we will talk about. But before I go in, is there a way I can get some quick feedback on what you would like to know more about today? Maybe you can drop a couple of comments in the chat box. So if I can see some messages in the chat box on what you would like to get out of today's session, then I think maybe I can make it a little bit more interactive and do some things a bit more useful. I'm sure what I have as a planned presentation will cover some of that, but I'm keen to know a little bit more. How to get started on a business plan, okay? Feel free to throw in whatever it is. Some of that will get covered, and if there is anything, anyway, we'll have time to have a conversation towards the end and have a Q&A kind of this thing where hopefully I'll be able to address some of those questions as well. What else would you like to know? How would you like to spend your next 1.5 hours so that it'll be more useful to you? How to be on top of expenses to ensure that one is never below the red line. Okay, that's a good one. Clearly, profitability is an important element of a business, and it's good to have some idea of where your costs are and how you're managing that. How many revenue model a bootstrap startup should have at initial stage? Okay, how to get right financial projections when you're starting a new business. We have very limited money, how to distribute. This is something that even some of the biggest companies complain about. Nobody has enough money. They all think they need some more. It's always a constraint. The important part is to figure out what do you do with the money that you have and how do you make it go further? Yeah, how will it help in expanding business? Calculate inflation in the long run. Okay, that's an interesting question. Unit economics model as well. We can cover some things around unit economics. Let's see if we have the time to do that. Allocate budget spends, different buckets over what period of time should it be evaluated. Need to get clarity on what is the revenue that a business should generate, especially in ready-made clothing area, to recognize it as a profitable model. Company success can only be projected after 3 years. Does one need to manage spreadsheets, or is there a simple way to manage? Okay. Okay, some of these questions are quite operational, but I will go a little bit more into a higher level thinking, because in my experience, talking to multiple people and spending time with multiple startups, I do find that there are quite a few areas where there are gaps, and bridging some of those gaps could actually be useful. Okay, I got a sense of that. We'll keep track of it, and if I don't answer some of these questions, I think we'll do that in the Q&A and get on, yeah? Okay. So how many of you heard of business model canvas and seen a business model canvas? Again, I don't need you to answer. Put in a thumbs up if you know about it in the chat box. I think among the various things that I have looked at, and my wife and I, we do a course on social entrepreneurship at Indian School of Development Management. And before we started doing that, teaching that course about 6 years ago, we did multiple courses on entrepreneurship online and looked at what various people are covering to see how to make our own program useful. Of course, subsequently then, as we are interacting with the class, we make some changes to the course as well. But out of all that we looked at, one of the most useful things that we found was this concept called the business model canvas, right? In case some of you don't know, it's worthwhile to look at what it entails. In short, it basically has these 9 boxes. As you can see, at the center is value propositions. On the right is customer segments. And then the third most important one, I feel, is channels or go-to-market. Some of them will cover it as go-to-market. The fourth one talks about customer relationship, what kind of relationships you have. And these 4 boxes on the right focus on the customer and the product or the service that you have, what value propositions make sense, and then how do you distribute and reach your customers. And some of what we will discuss from a revenue standpoint is all linked to that. On the left, you have these key partners, key activities, key resources. These largely cover how you as a company or how we as a company will manage the things that are required to be done to make sure that we are delivering all these things on the right side. Yeah. So on the right, the 4 boxes are more about who is our customer, what kind of value proposition will we deliver. On the left is how will we organize our company so that we can deliver these things effectively. And these are still not covering any of the financials. And that is why you have on the bottom the revenue streams and the cost structure. And once you cover this, you have a good sense of your overall business. One critical thing to remember is that you will have one business model canvas for each of your core customer segments. So if you have multiple customer segments, you will have multiple business model canvas. But for most of you, probably it'll be 1 or 2 and not too many other this thing. So I would, if some of you have not come across this, I think it'll be worthwhile to Google online and see and understand business model canvas, because I think it's a very useful way of organizing your business. Yeah. So again, the actual numbers here are not the most critical things here, but when you come across a lot of startups, quite a few of them are struggling with success in the market because they focused on something that they thought of. So let's say I'm a technologist. I think of some technology solution. I develop a technology solution or a technology product, and then go looking around where I can sell. Or let's say I went to a hospital. I had some kind of a problem in the way the hospital treated me or that clinic treated me. So I think there is an opportunity, and I start doing things on that basis. And these are real ways in which startups start, right? There's nothing wrong with that at all, but it is really important that we make sure that whatever products or service that we are looking at fits a very, very useful customer segment. So just because it appeals to me, it doesn't become an opportunity. It doesn't become a business proposition. They may be or they may not be. So I think it's important. And I want you to keep in mind that most startups fail simply because the product or the service is something that the market really doesn't need. It looks like it's necessary. Maybe 3 friends have told you it's something that they would love to buy. But unfortunately, in many situations, and I've had real life experiences even working for some of the biggest companies that I work for. We develop products, and then we think there is a market. We've done some extensive customer
Write down all the spelling
but
words in my
some
face.
things-
I had written and that fellow print out मेरे को कहीं नहीं दिख रहा.
If you can please mute yourself if you're on another call or giving instructions to your staff, please mute yourself. Yeah, thank you. So I've seen many situations where it's almost like I have a hammer in my hand. I'm going around looking for what nails to hit. I think it's really important to understand what kinds of nails do you want to hit. Do you need a screwdriver? If you need a screwdriver, what kind of a screwdriver do you need? What other power mechanisms do you need? You need to understand the customers, and I want you to focus on that. I've put this slide again, whether it's 40% or 35% or 50%, different researchers talk about different things, but that's a very critical one. And even though some of you might already be 1 year into your business, it's worthwhile to really take a hard look at what that is there a real demand for the product or the service that you're offering. So let's jump into this whole thing around revenue model. I'm sure all of you understand what a revenue is, and how do you earn your revenue is what we will talk more about. And revenue, of course, is one of the most important things for any business, right? Without any revenues, of course, you need to look at costs and so on. Without any revenues, there's no profits that you want. And most of you are in the commercial business of running a business to make profits. Maybe some of you are in the social entrepreneurship kind of a thing where you're also looking at impact, and profit may not be the primary objective why you're running your business. But even for social enterprises, it's really important to understand what profits you're generating. And profits are nothing but revenue minus cost, right? So I've had people who come to me and say like, okay, this is the product that I have. How should I distribute? Right? My question is, who is your customer? Oh, whoever buys my product is my customer. Yes, that may be the real scenario, but it's good to understand what kind of customers are likely to buy your product. Ideally, in a good kind of a situation, you will do an iterative this thing of, okay, what product ideas do I have? If I have this particular product idea, what kind of customers are likely to be interested in that? How big is that opportunity? Is that large enough? Or there and one somewhere else? Are they so spread out that it's very difficult to reach them? Or maybe is online an opportunity when I have customers who are all spread around? So you need to finally, after multiple iterations, have a clarity on your customer segments. What is the value proposition for that segment? And hence, how do you go to market? Or in very simple terms, how do you distribute these product or service, right? So if I were to visually put that, there are lots of customers that could potentially buy multiple sets of products or services that are there. For the same products, you could have different value propositions, right? So, for example, if I'm selling a healthy bar, let's say for fitness, I could say it is the tastiest healthy bar. It could be, I don't care about taste, it's the healthiest bar, because there are people who sometimes believe that the healthiest bar need not taste good. There are some segments which operate that way. So you need to understand, out of the whole set of potential customers, which part of that customers, what is that right value proposition, and how do you go to market? Because to this particular customer segment, if I have a strategy, let's say I'm targeting women who are looking for healthy products for their young children, newborn babies, right? How I distribute to them will be very different from young adults who are focused on fitness, right? To the young adults focused on fitness, I might go to Decathlon and try to do a deal with Decathlon and have distribution there. But if I'm looking at especially if it's for newborn babies, I might work with gynecologists and mother and child clinics, those kind of places, and see how I can focus on that. So it's really important that you understand who your customers are, and this is a very tricky one. Not everybody who buys your product is your core customer, right? So let me give you an example. I've spent some 15 years with Adidas. A lot of consumers who buy Adidas or Nike or Reebok may not necessarily be using it to play sport, right? Just because they use it on the street, if I start designing products more and more for the street, and I start selling where everybody is buying for the street, there will be some overlaps. I'm not talking about the overlap part of it, if I start doing that, there is a very good chance that the brand value gets diluted. So our recognition or our understanding in Adidas at that point in time was that we are fashionable on the street because we are a sports brand. So everything that we did was to strengthen our sporting credentials. We didn't stop people. We couldn't stop people buying Adidas products for streetwear, but we will never promote the streetwear credentials beyond a certain point. Of course, today it's a slightly different world. You have two logos of Adidas, and you have the old original logo, and you have the performance logo, and the performance products are for actual use for the sports, and the originals logo. So in case you've seen Ranveer Singh wearing these originals logo with these funky things, it happens because that's this thing. So musicians and a lot of those people love wearing those three stripes with the Trefoil logo. So it's now almost two distinctly different brands. A little confusing in terms of how we operate, but at the core of it, Adidas still focuses on strengthening the sporting credentials. So today, if they've spent crores sponsoring the Indian cricket team, it is to strengthen the sporting credentials. When you do that, yes, sales of street products also increases, but that doesn't mean. So I think this is something that I want you to recognize when you're looking at it, because quite often a lot of businesses, even successful businesses, for example, Fila, which is one of this very successful sports brand, made a mess of their entire model because they saw that 70-80% of their customers are buying for the street, and they became more and more fashion streetwear. And after a while, people stopped buying Fila because they didn't get enough sports credentials out of Fila. There are millions of fashion brands out there, right? And which offer better fashion credentials than what Fila or anybody else could. So I think this is one image that I'd like you to remember. Who's your customer? What is the value proposition? And hence, what is the best way to reach that customer? Because without that clarity, you may end up doing things which are not in the best interest of your customer. And then you'll be either doing it at a very, very high cost. Some of you ask, how do I keep my costs low? Your costs will become very high if I start spraying my products everywhere and hoping something sticks and somebody buys out of that. It makes good business sense to make sure that you're focusing your efforts on things where you're getting a better conversion rate. Yeah, I won't go further. We can discuss this. So in short, revenue is nothing but average price and quantity, right? Of course, it's an average price. Very rarely do you sell at the same price to all your customers. And most often you will have multiple products. Each of those products have different prices. So that's why the concept of average prices, and we'll talk about the segments separately. So there are different kinds of sales, right? Either you can have outright sales, or if you have a very high initial outright sale, then you try to make it into bite-sized one. And this could be rentals, this could be EMIs, this could be software as a service. Either I can sell a software and say this costs $100,000 or 25 lakhs that you can buy, or you can say, no, you just pay 20,000 a month over the life of this thing. So, and if you really look at, most businesses want to keep their own costs low as well. Of course, when you do that, the risk is that at some stage, if they don't like the product or service that you're selling, they have the right to move out of your product. So you need to even more make sure that whatever product you're selling really adds value to your customers so that they're getting repeat purchases of the same thing. So recurring sales is somewhat similar, but they are actually buying the same product. So let's say I'm buying, you're selling toothpaste and I'm buying a tube of toothpaste every 15 days or every 20 days or every 1 month, depending on my family's requirements or my individual requirement, right? And in some cases, your total revenue model might have nothing to do with selling products. If you're a YouTuber, you may be getting some other revenues, but you could just be focusing on advertising, right? So the more customers you have who are coming onto your platform and engaging with your platform, you get more and more advertising revenue. And even there, who advertises will depend on what kind of a customer profile you have, right? If I'm if I'm focused on giving, let's say, very high-end advice on, let's say, property or something, my customer base will be very small, but they could be a very elite set of this thing. But if I'm somebody who's promoting mass products, then I might have millions of followers, and they may not be much this thing in terms of how do I segment. So if I'm selling high-end real estate, I don't care, or in fact, I don't want too many riffraff, if I were to use that word, to come onto my platform and start trolling genuine people who are coming for that. So you have to manage your customers. So, and of course, in some cases, it will be a combination of some of these. You may have some advertising revenue, you may have some actual product revenue, or you could have some EMI sales, you could have some outright sales. For example, let's say, if I were Adidas in today's context, footwear can cost anywhere between 5,000 to 25, 30,000, right? I could tie up with financing companies or the new age, this thing, and say some products I have EMI options. Some products like socks and caps and stuff like that, very rarely they're going to need EMI. They might buy things outright. So you will have a combination of some of these, and you need to look at all these when you are looking at, right? So as we do this, what I want you to focus on is, while revenue is price and quantity, and I've seen people when we are discussing, okay, let's talk about your revenue projections. Let's say, okay, in Jan, I want to sell 3 lakhs. In February, I want to sell 3.2 lakhs. In March, I want to sell 3.5 lakhs. To me, that's just one number. And most often, businesses fail to achieve those numbers simply because they have just one revenue number. I think what you really need to have is, how will those revenues come, right? So if you really look at it from that standpoint, pre-revenue, what do you need to, before the actual transaction happens, what are all the things that you need to do? So you need to build your revenue projections from that standpoint. Let me give you an example. So let's say I have an app on which I'm doing sales, right? So I can look at sales as my only number, or I can say, no, I need to see how many downloads are happening every month, right? And even downloads doesn't have any indication of what is happening, right? So people need to download, then they need to actually open the app. Millions may have downloaded, but only 3 people are opening that app every day. There's a good chance I won't have. So I need to know how many people are actively engaged with the app. How many people are opening the app and how much time are they spending on the app? What are the kind of things that they are discovering? And are they able to discover the right kind of products so that they are actually looking more into the details of that? So I need to go back pre-revenue and build that model based on that. So that's the app kind of a situation, right? So some of you may be in business to business kind of a situation where you may not have millions of customers, but you have 5 or 6 large customers that you need to get most of your business. And some of these you will need 5, 6 interactions before you actually are able to have a transaction, right? So if you're again in the real estate business, and if you want to sell one apartment, you may, I don't know what the real numbers are, your experience may say that I need to reach at least 100 potential customers, and at least 20 or 30 of them should come and look at the site and view the model apartment. And out of that 20 that have seen the apartment, maybe 5 of them show interest, and maybe 3 to 6 months later, one of them might convert into a sale, right? So you need to understand that funnel in that. The other important part is that new customers are always expensive to get on board, right? So you want to do more and more with existing customers, and you have to have a clear idea of what is happening with your existing customers. Are they continuing to buy your products? Are they dropping out? Are they continuing to buy your products? Are they buying less of your products? Are they buying more of your products? Are they buying less frequently? Are they buying more frequently? So if I were to look at any business, I think every business should always have 3 segments that they should have clarity on. Who are my new customers coming into the business? Because without new customers, there's a good chance that you will recycle your existing customers and gradually lose some of them, because whatever you do, you will lose some customers, right? Whatever you do, you can increase some sales with your existing customers. So for every business, you need to know who are your new customers, because new customers largely show your growth opportunity. Then your existing customers, how are they doing? Are they buying more? Are they buying more frequently? Is there an opportunity to sell more to them? And there will always be dropouts. You don't try to stop every dropout, but if the dropout is happening because your product is not good, or your service is not good, or your delivery has got some challenges, or something else, whatever is the friction point, you need to understand. But it is okay to have some dropouts. In some cases, you might even actively need to drop out. Again, somebody asked, why are the costs? If my costs are going up, how do I keep a check? Most often, I found that when my costs are going up, it's going up because there are some customers who are coming at a very, very high cost. They're taking a lot of my time. They're taking a lot of my company's resources, and the cost of servicing them is very high. And they're really one-off cases. You know, there's one person who is probably some big name, somebody, I'm just giving you, throwing something out of the top of my head, and they will just drain your time. And sometimes it's okay to let them go. And in some cases, you need to actually actively manage those, because these high cost customers will kill you, will kill your business. So at any point in time, you need to look at your segments and say, what is the profitability of each of these segments? And if there are some segments which are coming to you at a very, very high cost, then you need to figure out, is there a way that you can reduce the cost? Is there a way that you can charge them a higher price for all the extra services that you're probably providing, in which case some of them might drop out automatically, or they may be okay to actually pay you a higher price because they do want that extra service, and they recognize that that extra service should be coming at a higher cost. Yeah. So look at that. There's a concept of cost and ease of acquisition and the lifetime value. I think this is something that you need to also keep in mind. If cost of acquiring a new customer is more than the potential sales that you can have in the next 2-3 years, then you're going to run into trouble, right? So I acquire a customer at, let's say, 1,000 rupees, but the potential sales to that customer is only 1,000-2,000 rupees. And the profit that I can make out of them is only 300-400 rupees, or whatever that margin that you get out of your business, then you have a problem. So you need to, and this is something again that businesses which have very infrequent sales get into trouble with. If my customer can only buy my products or service once in 2 years, and my cost of getting them is very, very high, it's very difficult to get them once. It's very difficult to do repeat sales with them. So you need to have that clarity, and in some cases, you may even really question whether you want to be in a different business if you have a very infrequent kind of business. And unfortunately, you will get mixed signals from your customers. 2 of your friends will buy them and they'll tell you, oh, wonderful product, I really love that product. And then you're finding that the sales is not taking off after that, simply because it is very infrequent purchases. Even those who like your product may not be able to come back to buy you until 6 months later or 1 year later. And it's very, very difficult to manage your customers if this sales is. So random revenue versus repeatable revenue. Look at what kind of a business are you in. Is your business something that you can repeat your revenue, you can continue to keep selling? Once you get your customers, how many opportunities to sell do you have? And you will also manage your relationships with those customers in those ways. So there are some heavy duty customers who are probably ordering every 15 days from you. There are probably some customers who are ordering once in a year. Obviously, you need to interact with your frequent customers, your high value customers more frequently. So again, if I were this thing, I'd look at who are my high value customer segments, who are my maybe not so high value, medium value customers, who are my low value customers. And it's okay to ignore the low value customers because you can't keep everybody happy. And business is about making those choices of where you will focus on. Eventually, you just want to do more of what is more successful for you, more of what is more profitable for you, more of what is helping your brand image, right? And anything that's not helping your this thing, gradually you may sell some products for some time because you need some revenue somewhere, right? I mean, you can't have the luxury of only doing some things that is in your best interest all the time. So you will have some things that you will try. It may work, it may not work. You may have to do some things because right now, without those revenues, the risk that my business might struggle to survive. So you will have some short-term things that you need to do, but quickly you need to weed them out so that they're not hurting your brand. One more concept that I wanted to highlight before I take a break maybe is, I'll just cover one more item, is the investable business versus organic business, right? So most of you might be in an organic business where you're happy doing what you're doing. You don't care whether somebody wants to invest into you, and it's absolutely fine, right? There, how you take decisions will be slightly different from investable businesses, because investors, when they want to invest in you or when you want to go and raise money from investors, they are looking for a very different kind of a metric. They are interested in low capital businesses. They are interested in very, very fast, repeatable business. They don't mind if you're unprofitable today, but if with their investment, they can actually help you scale up, thereby bringing either the cost down or cost of servicing down and improve profitability. And in some cases, even if it's not profitable, they may not care as long as they can find another buyer who will buy their shares and invest into you. So you just pass the parcel to somebody else before. And there could be all kinds of reasons why investors decided to invest. So be very clear that you don't fall into the trap of an investable kind of a business thinking if you're looking at an organic business, or if you want to be an investable business, you can't say, okay, I'm okay with 1 customer in Delhi and 3 customers in Mumbai and 5 customers in Bangalore and 25 customers in Chennai. If you're spread out all over, the investors are not interested. They want to know, okay, can you focus on one market, one geography, not even one city, but one part of the city? And if you go to 1 lakh customers, can you get 1,000 sales? Can you get 10,000 sales? Can you get 1 lakh sales, 1 crore sales? They're interested in how you can saturate one small segment very deeply. So if you're in the business of wanting to build an investable business, focus on a small geography, focus on a segment, try to see how you can get more and more out of that segment. And then it's very easy to prove to the investor that, look, with this investment, I've been able to convert 10% of this market. And, with this experience, the next market that I go to, my investment will be required, less investment will be required. I'll convert maybe more than 10%, 12%, and it will come at a lower cost and lower amount of time. And that's how you prove to the investor that you and your business have the ability to scale up faster that way. Yeah. So do recognize that the decision-making process is different if you're your own business. If you want to grow, not that you don't want to grow, but you're happy to grow at a pace that you're comfortable with, that you're comfortable with your own investments, and do that. So a quick this thing on value proposition, in case you're wondering what it is. Typically in the value proposition, what you are looking to do is, who's your customer? What are the kind of things that they want to get done? They're referred to as customer jobs. What are the customers' pains? What are the customers' gains? So let's say you want to run a school for young girls, right? Especially in a smaller town or something like that. So what do the parents want? What do the children want? You need to understand all that. You need to understand what are the pains that both children and parents might have. For example, if there is a safety issue about the children, right? The parents might not send you to school irrespective of whatever fantastic building you may have, fantastic curriculum you may have, fantastic teachers you may have. If there are some things which are going to prevent the customers from, and those are referred to as pains, right? So for example, if I have to go 25 kilometers to buy a product, which is of not so great importance, there's no way I'm going to do, right? So if it's not convenient for me to purchase, it's not going to happen. So you need to understand what are your customers' pains and make sure that some of the most critical ones, not all pains need to be addressed. Similarly, there are some gains, which if they have, it's not that they won't miss it if they don't have it, but when they have, they're positively surprised. And usually it could be things like fantastic design, for example. Most of us tend to think of products from what services it provides, but aesthetics are very, very important to more and more consumers. And it's amazing how much aesthetics play a role in terms of customer decisions these days. You could have a fantastic product, but if the aesthetics are not good, it's almost beginning to become like a pain rather than a gain. So you want to understand all those aspects from your customer standpoint. And then from your product and services on the left, you want to look at what are the things that can overcome these pains. What are these friction points that are there that I need to remove, without which my customer may not look at my product or service. And what are those things? Low price is not a pain or a gain. Okay. So most of us think that if I have a lower price than my competitor, it'll solve all kinds of problems. It rarely, if you look at the market, the lowest price is not always the market leader. Very rarely is the lowest price the market leader. In some cases, the lowest price is the market leader because they have other strengths to go with the low price rather than this thing. Most consumers are willing to pay a higher price as long as they're able to see more value in whatever product or service that they are delivering, that they're getting out of your product. But yes, differentiation is becoming more and more difficult because whatever you do, somebody else copies almost within a few days or few weeks or few months. So the margin advantage is limited to a short while, but there are still ways and means to differentiate. And the differentiation need not only come from your product. It could be coming from how you distribute. It could be coming from your payment mechanisms. It could be coming from how they pay for the product. Like I said, are you making them pay ₹1,00,000 one time, or are they paying ₹1,000 per month for the next 3 years? All that could determine how much business you get. So there are plenty of ways to differentiate. Take that extra effort to figure out that differentiation. So that's the value proposition. And then, of course, the distribution channel. You have clarity on who your customer segment is. You've kind of determined what are the value propositions that make sense for this thing. And then you decide on how to distribute, right? Because some distribution, and I've seen so many companies and so many startups trying hard to build their own Shopify platform. Shopify is great. It looks like you have fantastic visibility of all your customers, but it's really important to go where your customers are shopping. Consumers' preference is very, very critical. I mean, I've had the luxury of working for brands like Adidas and Nokia. Even for brands like Adidas and Nokia, selling on your own platform or selling in exclusive stores is not an easy task. It's very, very expensive proposition. So we would always mix the channels a little bit. We'll sell where customers are already shopping in multi-branded stores. We do have some exclusive stores where some customers can come and experience the products. It's actually an expensive channel. We may not convert sales. Our profitability expectations are very low from those channels. In some cases, we are actually spending money way above whatever profitability there is from that channel, but we do that more as a advertising. Between having a hoarding for 5 lakhs, sometimes it might be easier for me to run a store where thousands of customers can come and experience my products and then go and buy wherever they're happy to buy. And in some cases, they might be buying in another channel because they can compare with other products, or they might even be getting it at a lower price. But it doesn't matter whether they are buying it at a lower price as long as they're buying you. I've seen so many startups that I've spent time with trying hard to push the customer to come and buy from their Shopify. You go and log into their Shopify channel. You don't know when it's going to get delivery. It might come after a week. It might come after 2 weeks. Today, in a world where consumers are used to 15-minute deliveries and half-an-hour deliveries and same-day deliveries, not having clarity on this thing. But they say, no, I have 1,000 customers and there are repeat customers, right? Great. Absolutely. So you will get customers to come onto your platform, and it actually makes sense for you to bring some of your regular customers onto your platform. But if you want growth from new customers, you have to go where most of the customers are shopping. So as I said in the earlier context, you need to look at where is the growth coming from, where is your current customer base, and are you able to do more, and how many of them are dropping out, right? So invariably, you will find if you're focusing on your own channel, the cost of that might look like it is lower than doing it in Amazon or somewhere else because you're not paying the margins, but the customer experience is very, very poor. And at some stage, you will find that they're dropping off, and you may get a lot of repeat sales, but that base is very, very small. My sense is that you're probably losing 10 times that number in potential new business customers if you're going where your customers are already shopping. Yeah? Okay, so to sum up, you have to look at the order frequency, new customers, repeat purchases. You have to look at your revenue funnels, go back before the actual sales transaction happens. If you're an advertising, look at not just the advertising revenue that you're getting, but what are the ways in which you can build your engagement with your customers and do that, right? Once you do all that, we'll come to revenue planning. So I'm going to take a short stop at this stage for questions because I've spoken for a while, might have covered, but it might have raised some doubts rather than this thing. Okay, I'm looking at some questions on the channel. When is it okay to drop a high-cost customer? As of now, I tried to discount the additional delivery chargeable to this person. So he's paying the same amount for delivery as the product cost, but even this amount is not feasible. Yeah, at some stage, you need to be very clear that if the cost of delivery is more than whatever your revenue is, and I'm assuming you mentioned the right word, revenue, or even if it's more than your margin, you need to. But if you think that in the next 6 months to 1 year, you can get more frequent service and more frequent purchases, and hence you'll be able to bring the cost of service, then it should be okay to keep that customer or that customer segment. I'm seeing some raised hand, Dr. Sugandh. Feel free to raise that question in the chat box if you can. I'm seeing some questions saying, how can we evaluate time in terms of revenue? I'm not sure if I'm understanding this right. If you can clarify, that would be useful. Could be a possibility that a time-consuming customer eventually becomes very big. You're absolutely right. They could be, but you have to make some judgment calls. It can't be that this customer is likely to become very big 5 years later. You need to have both a short term and a long term. In business, this is a very, very tricky trade-off between short term and long term. If you are not viable in the short term, there is no long term that you will be available for you, right? So you need to at some stage make the difficult calls. For you to be viable, who do I focus on right now? How do I get my business to survive the next 3 months, the next 6 months? If I do everything in the interest of what makes sense 3 years later, I might be dead by that time. And these are real challenges even for very large businesses. So you need to take those hard calls, and sometimes it's difficult, it's emotional, it's scary, but you have to make hard calls. And especially if you're in the impact business, even more difficult, because you feel like you're leaving out some customer who really needs you, and you feel bad about that. But you have, at the end of the day, again, if you're doing something really good, you need to survive first before you can do more good service, right? By continuing to serve customers who are draining you or draining profitability of your business, you're not going to survive. And whatever little value add that you're able to provide will not be possible. So make those hard calls. Sometimes you have to take those short-term decisions so that you're able to survive, so that you can expand the impact that you have and expand the customer base that you can serve. Yeah, those are batters. You know, many customers will say, no, I can't decide. When I order, I want to order now, and I want to receive it in the next 20 minutes. Yes, there are some customers that you may lose if you don't, but once you manage expectations and say that, okay, if you're able to order on a Thursday, I'm able to deliver to you on a Friday. After a while, customer behaviors change over a period of time. Initially, they might resist that. And this is true in all our cases, right? So initially during COVID, there were so many of them who were trying to sell to our residential area. They said, okay, fine, you want the sourdough bread delivered as soon as you want? Yes, we are available for delivery on Swiggy. Order it on Swiggy, pay the Swiggy delivery service, you will get it. But to this apartment complex, we come every Friday, place your orders before Thursday. Friday, you get delivery free of charge. 2-3 times we order when we require. Third time you realize it's stupid to do that. I know now every Friday I get a delivery of cheese and I get sourdough bread, and then we order on a Thursday and get that on this thing. So you can train your customers and you can manage expectations of your customers, as long as you don't tell them that, look, I need an order 1 week before and I will deliver it 1 week later. Then they may not have the ability to plan 1 week in advance what they want. So make sure that your systems and processes are customer friendly, but you don't have to bend backwards to serve every customer and kill yourself in the process. How do I increase my profit without moving customers, especially repeat ones, used to certain pricing? So pricing is a very tricky one. Again, we just have to think about our own behaviors, right? What are the things that we bought? What are the things that we stopped buying? And what are the things that we continue to buy and aspire? Most of them, unfortunately, tend to think that by dropping price, I can increase sales. It may temporarily increase sales, but if you keep repeating this business over a period of time, then the customers are very smart, right? They want to start looking for something that's more aspirational for them. So if you want to grow your business, it's okay to give some temporary promotions for a very short period of time, right? When you do that, as long as your product is aspirational and people thought that, okay, I couldn't afford to buy this product because it was too expensive, and when it suddenly becomes available at a lower price, I'm tempted to buy, right? And you do that once or twice, and after a period of time, then you say, no, I like these products too much that I don't care whether they're available on sale or not. But if you keep repeating this discounting business over a period of time, as a customer, I start going to some other brand which is more aspirational, because this brand has become less aspirational. Now it's constantly discounting. It's probably only worth that. That's why they're discounting so much. Price is an important signal, right? If I show you 2 pens and tell you this is 100 rupees, this is 50 rupees, some of you will definitely doubt the quality of the product that I'm selling for 50 rupees. That doesn't mean that you can always get away selling everything at 100 rupees, right? So you need to have an inherent value of product or service, but by just marking it at lower prices, you can't succeed. And you may, if at all, sometimes signal to your customers that maybe you are actually of lower role value. So you find other ways to do that. And these are ways, for example, again, I can give specific examples from your lines, but look at, for example, Apple products. Yeah, Apple products are some of the most expensive products. But what do? They make it more affordable, but tying up with others. The credit card gives you a discount. Why does a credit card give you a discount? Because when a credit card gets you as a customer to buy 100,000 rupees worth of iPhone or 70,000 rupees worth of the new iPhone, they're getting a new customer at a very affordable price. So they are paying the cost of acquiring that product and giving that discount. So in your mind, Apple still has the value, because in your mind, the Apple was still worth 75,000 or 100,000, 1 lakh, whatever you were buying. The discount you were getting from HDFC card or SBI card or whatever else. So those are ways in which you play games with how do you make sure that you are making your product more affordable for the customer, but it's not coming as a price drop from you, but there is something else that you, of course, sometimes you're tempted to say, okay, you buy this and I will add this for X so that the customer again gets more value. But you then need to make sure that whatever you're offering itself is of interest to the customer, right? So if I'm selling an iPhone and I give a Bluetooth free at a discount or whatever, I can buy many good Bluetooths for a lower price because they are desperate to sell, and I can do that. But if I sell some really unconnected product, or if I say, no, buy an iPhone for 75,000 rupees and I'll give you a cover for 1,000 rupees or a screen guard for 200 rupees, nobody cares, right? So whatever you're offering in addition needs to be enhancing the value of your product and is also an aspirational product that goes along with that particular product. And when you're able to do that, temporarily you can generate some new customers, and it's actually a very important way to bring new customers into your business. Don't be afraid of doing sales once in a while and think that every sale is going to dilute your brand. No, even some of the biggest brands do sales either to clear cut size problems that they have. So clearance is by itself is not a bad idea, but how frequently you do it, how you do it, and what is the experience during that clearance business, everything matters. So for example, this is a slightly old example. When I was with Adidas in Singapore, before I went in, they would do a clearance sale, and they will do the clearance sale from the warehouse. So the customer experience was very, very poor. So it was almost like you were treating the product like shit, and the customers didn't feel good buying these products at a discount. So we said, no, we'll change all that perception. So we would take a large space in an expo hall, arrange the products beautifully, make sure we have hundreds of counters. We have at least 10, 12, cashiers, so that nobody really had to wait for too long. And then they're not thinking that they are in a sale where Adidas is selling discounted product. They actually think they're getting a damn good deal because they've got Adidas with almost all the good services that they were used to from a regular shop, except that it was at a lower price. So you just want to make sure that you're not diluting the experience for the consumer when you dilute the price. Just because you're charging a lower price in that, if you dilute that experience, they'll say like, okay, I'm just getting a cheaper product at a cheaper price, and they're desperate to sell, and that's why they're offering it for a sale. So you need to look at how you're doing that. Hopefully that answers your question. Luxury fragrance brand currently operating with limited financial resources. As I said, even the biggest companies think they have limited resources. Everybody wants to grow. Everybody wants to maximize their online and offline presence is not meeting our expectations. So online, again, is a very tricky one. When you say online, not every online is online, right? So where are your customers shopping? So it's good to understand who are your customers, figure out ways in which, and in today's context, you can actually do various things with your sale, with your clicks and so on, to understand who are these customers who are coming on. But most importantly, need to see how to make it super convenient for the customer. So recently I was having a conversation with one startup and they said like, look, I want to have an app for my product. Why do you want an app? Because if I have an app, then I will know more about my customer. So I said, great. Okay, then I tried to download the app. And then before I could see anything, they wanted my Janam Patri virtually. They wanted my name, my email address, my telephone number. And I have not even seen what product they sell. Of course, I know what product they sell, but because I'm advising these guys. But so I said, like, I mean, why would I download your app? Even if I did you a favor of downloading my app, why would I share all these details? You've not even shown me what products you have. No, we want to have your information so that we can give you a guided experience. I was like, I'm not willing to give you my information until you show me what you're going to offer. So if there is one message I want you to take away from this entire time that you spend, think from your customer standpoint. This is like the GST and the government. I mean, I'm not bashing government. It's not a political conversation, but I mean, you first have to make it easy for people to use. Then you optimize your business, right? First, make it easy for customers to know more about what you're selling. First, make it easy for customers to come and transact on your this thing. Make it easy for them to come and engage with your platform. Then you try and say, okay, how do I gradually get more and more information? That's why I say that if you're getting 100 customers into your own online channel, there's a very good chance that you're at least losing 1,000 customers by not going where they are shopping. So make sure that you go where the customers are currently used to shopping. Gradually find a way to show them how they can actually benefit by shopping where you would like them to shop, because you're getting some benefit as well. So think from the customer standpoint. If you're again selling through distributors or other retailers, I always had a very clear hierarchy. My consumers are first. My customers through whom I sell to my consumers are next. If I take care of these two well, then I will have ways to optimize my business. If I start optimizing what is right for the business, most likely I'm going to make my customers very unhappy because they're not benefiting from that. And if they're not benefiting from that, they're probably not allowing you to reach your end consumers who are actually going to buy this thing. And when I'm saying customers, think retailers, think distributors, think even online platforms. I might do things to get my sale. So for example, they have a beautiful website, lots of information on the product. I want to go purchase, then it goes to the online platform of their own website. I have to log in, register before I can make a sale. Don't bother. Get the sale first, and along with the sale, get 1 or 2 pieces of information that they are willing to give as part of the sale. Gradually get more sales, and then gradually engage with them to make sure that they are buying directly from your platform. Make it super, super convenient for your consumers. Don't create friction elements. I go to the website and order. I don't know when it's going to get delivered. Immediately the sale is dropped, right? If you don't pick up that sale when the customer is showing interest, yes, so that's why some websites, they'll say, okay, if I want to buy this, click purchase, Amazon, Big Basket, Flipkart, whatever else, and you go wherever you are interested in shopping as a consumer. You don't know whether they shopped or where they shop, but by making it easier for a consumer, there's a good chance that they actually went and shopped eventually. Maybe 1 or 2 of them might have dropped off because when they saw your product, they saw something else and they liked that and they dropped off. But don't make it difficult. I think don't tie up your consumer hoping to get that sale when you're actually tying them up to lose that sale. Yeah? Okay. So let's move a little bit to this thing. I also want to talk a little bit about the revenue planning. So operationally, what does this mean? So if I'm planning this thing, so probably, sorry, this may not be relevant to any of you, but hopefully you get a gist. Let's say I'm in a package delivery business that employs women, right? As I said, one way is to say that in 2018, or if you look at it as months, I want to get, 9.9 million in 2018 estimate. But that's not enough. I need to know how will I get those numbers, right? How many, if I'm in the women delivery of packages business, how many women do I employee will determine how many packages I can deliver. How many deliveries a woman can make in a day will determine what happens there. How many working days are there in a month? And if some of you are in retail business, every day is 3.3%. It doesn't look like it's a large number, but 3.3% is a huge swing. In fact, that's why in levers, in Hindustan Lever, we used to operate on not by months, but by what we used to call journey cycles. Every four weeks was a journey cycle. And people would say, I got married in journey cycle 6. They won't say I got married in May or June. They'll say like my marriage, because everything that they're thinking is by journey cycles. So sometimes it's better to plan by week or by fortnight or every 4 weeks, because a month with February 28 days is a very different month from a 31-day month. It is very different from a 30-day month. And if it has other seasonality like weekends and weekdays, how many weekends you have in that month, you need to plan that in your planning process. If, let's say, month of May has 5 weekends instead of 4 weekends, and your weekend sales are much higher than your weekday sales, you need to make sure that you're planning for much more in May and not lose that opportunity by planning for better stocking and also going after that sales, right? So you need to build your sales and revenue from the 3 or 4 critical things. And in this case, I've taken number of women employed as one parameter. Average number of deliveries a woman can make is one parameter. As you can see, if I delivered 23 in the last year, by optimizing the route, maybe I can deliver 30 in this year, right? And by actually having a better transportation mechanism, maybe I can even deliver 40 next year. And all that will have an impact. And some of you asked about how do I bring my cost down? This is how you can bring your cost down. So if you have, instead of doing deliveries ad hoc, delivering one person in one side of town, second person in the other side of town, but instead if you're able to have a route on which you're delivering on a particular day and you take orders for delivery on that particular day on that particular route, you've dramatically changed. Or if you have a minimum order quantity, a reasonable minimum order quantity, just because my cost of delivery is high, I can't say, oh, you need to buy 2,000 rupees of bread, right? It may be meaningless. It might mean that I can maybe push somebody who's buying 200 rupees of bread to 300 rupees of bread by adding some garlic bread and some other additional stuff, so that I get free delivery for those person. But less than 200 you want to place, but I'll have to charge you delivery, right? So you need to find those parameters which are consumer friendly, which are also business friendly, and thereby optimize your time, cost, and delivery this thing. So if you don't plan your revenues by taking those 3 or 4, in some cases, as your business gets larger, it might be even more complicated planning. So for example, if I were doing it for Adidas, I would look at footwear separately, I would look at apparel separately, I'd look at accessories separately. And within footwear, if my running shoes are the biggest segment, I might plan separately for running shoes. I might plan separately for 1 or 2 categories separately, but all others I might put it into one basket. So you need to look at your important segments and plan them well. Why do we do that? Because in business, if something is going well, you want to do more of that. And that's how you become more successful. Don't spend too much time bothering about the one thing that's not doing well. Quite often, if you just focus on a few things that are doing well, by focusing your attention to doing more of that better, you will get a bad example. Don't get Sachin to improve his bowling. Unfortunately, he also can bowl and he can also field, or a Virat Kohli can do that. But if you're taking somebody for a particular thing, focus on doing that better. All-rounders, there's room for some all-rounders, but not that the entire team doesn't need to be all-rounders. Similarly, if in your analysis, you're finding that Bombay is doing very well for you. Bangalore is not doing very well. Yes, you may need to fix it, but first focus on how can I improve my Bombay sales even more? Because looks like I'm doing something right. What more traction? That's why you need to know the critical segments where you're operating well and where you're not doing well, right? And similarly, from revenue projection, if you're doing a financial projection, I've seen situations where everybody has a plan, right? By Jan, revenue, margins, cost, direct cost, and come actual month, sales achieved half of it, 30% of it, 50% of it. Either the projection was very aggressive, or the reason how you will make that achieve is not there. So to come back to the earlier discussion, you need to, for each of your mechanisms, whether it's revenue, what are those 3 or 4 critical things? Who are your 3-4 top customers? Plan by top customers. Who are your 3 important geographies? Plan for those geographies. Because if you don't get those 3 important geographies right, most likely your end result for the month will be bad. And you're like getting upset with your sales team or with yourself for not having achieved. The other fear that most people always have is that whatever target I have, I will not be able to achieve. So I increase my target by another 20%, hoping that if I have a higher target, I'll achieve more of that. Very, 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 very disturbing for your team. Targets need to be stretched, but also need to be achievable. If they give up right at the beginning of the month that this target is not achievable, you're not going to achieve it. Some of my own experiences, my best success has come when the targets were reasonable and there was room to overachieve the targets. So let's say what you could achieve was 90. I keep the target at 90, but there are incentives for achieving 120. And there are penalties, or at least you don't earn enough if you get less than 80. So by doing that, you, one, make sure that it's not okay not to go after targets because the targets are not sensible. The targets are relevant, but more importantly, the fear that, okay, once they achieve the targets, they might stop trying harder, goes out of the window because there are incentives for exceeding the targets. And overall, you'll find that the mood dramatically changes. Everybody is like achieving targets, trying to look at overachieving the targets, and the positivity in the organization dramatically changes. Whereas on the other hand, you have a unreasonable target, they achieve less, they're unhappy. I mean, nobody wants to not achieve targets, right? They're unhappy that they have not achieved targets. They're unhappy that their best efforts is not recognized because finally the measure was that they didn't achieve the targets. So make sure that targets are reasonable, but more importantly, work with each of them on how to achieve the target. So if at the beginning of the month, you're having a conversation on the target, the discussion is not what is the target, but how will we achieve the target? What are the 3 things that you will do to make sure that those targets are achieved? And when you're reviewing at the end of the month, then you have a better idea of which of those didn't work. Was your assumption that this customer will buy more didn't work? Or was your assumption that this average price point that you will get was not received, was not achieved, or something else? Then you have, when you're planning the next month's target, then you take that input and plan better. Either you plan an action to push the average price up for whatever reason, if there is a way to do that, or you're promoting some particular thing focused on that big customer who could actually have bought much more if only you've done that in the last month. So every review should be focused very little on why was the achievement not received, not made, but to understand what are the learnings to improve the achievement better this month. So review mechanisms, make sure, and to be able to do that, you need 3 or 4 critical assumptions. Similarly, if you're looking at expenses, looking at the whole expenses as a bunch won't give you clarity. Look at what are those important breakdowns of those expenses and which of those were the assumptions wrong or were the execution not adequate and hence increase the cost, or was there some unusual circumstances which increase the cost of delivery? Maybe there was a strike, or maybe one of the transporters increased the cost, and then you know why, what happened, and then you can either account for that in your model, or you can negotiate that better and do that. And you do the same thing for indirect expenses. What are the fixed costs? What are the variable costs? What fixed costs can I make them variable? Even if it's a little bit higher, if my sales are a little low initially, why would I pay very high fixed costs? I try to make it variable. I know how much I'm losing with every transaction or how much money I need to make extra. Thereby, my decision making is smarter and better on that. Yeah. So then again, you would, like the revenue planning, you'll do the same thing. And then you go to the direct costs. And in this case, again, I know average deliveries per woman is 23, which I'm raising to 30 to 40. And maybe beyond 40, I can't go any further. Right? Working days of a month will probably remain the same. But the salary that I pay is also probably fixed. I could do variable delivery costs also if I'm able to. But because this was about an impact model, the idea was that you don't take away the salary of the person, but you make that more and more efficient by better organizing the route. I bring down the average cost per delivery, right? By doing that mechanism, I am able to improve my margins gradually. So you need to break down your costs into the 3 or 4 critical elements and see which of those you can optimize and thereby improve your business model, right? If I then move to the indirect costs, let's say for every 20 women that I employ, I need 1 supervisor, right? And the supervisor salaries can be changed. The average monthly rent can change. So look at all those critical costs and say, how can I optimize? Can I have, let's say, 1 supervisor take care of more than 20 women? If I'm better organized, maybe I don't need 1 supervisor for 20, but I can have 25 employees covered by, maybe in your case, you might have 5 workers to 1 supervisor or 5 salesperson to 1 supervisor. Maybe you can increase it to 8. If you have a better capability supervisor, even if the cost of the supervisor is more, cost per salesman might come down by doing that. I think one of you referred to the unit economics. This is how you bring the unit economics, where you have 1 branch or 1 supervisor taking care of multiple sales. By improving the efficiency of that branch or that supervisor, you can actually lower the cost that you will attribute to a particular unit. And once you do that, then you will have a better way of doing that, right? So since we have about 5 minutes, I'm going to summarize. So focus on the funnel, focus on the top segments, focus on, as I said, do more of what is working. You should know what is doing well in your business, and you should always be asking yourself, can I do more of what is working? We all tend to be a little negative and focus on the 3 things that are not going well. And sometimes even by improving that, you may not get a significant boost to your business. But if you focus on the few product lines that are doing well, or the few geographies that are doing well, and rotate that focus at different points. So say in January, I'll focus on the geography sales and see how I can improve. In February, I'll focus on the product lines and boost that, because you can't do everything all the time. If you talk about all these 20 things to your sales staff, they'll go crazy and they don't know what to focus on. So focus on a few things every time, do that very well, and then repeat that focus. Seasonality is one very underrated thing. I'm sure most of you are in business, and you need to understand, like I mentioned, are weekends more important? Are some months more important? So, for example, if I was in Adidas now that the cricket season is going on, I'd focus a lot more on cricket and cricket-related other things, training for cricket accessories. Who are the main sports persons that I'm associated with? What product lines are they wearing and they are focused on promoting? How do I do more of that? Come next month, if tennis is this thing, I'll focus on tennis. Come next month, if basketball, NBA starts, EPL starts, Champions League. So I need to know what are all the key events that are happening around my business. So, for example, I was advising a small startup on auto rides, and whether it's dropping school kids or weekends, temple rides. Temple rides were a big business that they were getting. How can I get more temple rides during the important, which days of the week, which temple gets the traffic in this thing? The moment you do stuff like that, you can improve your sales and do that. And as I said, you should know what to start, because without new businesses, you're not going to get growth. What do you keep the core? How do you keep improving that business? How do you understand some segments are declining? Whether you like it or not, they will gradually die. And trying to keep them alive by doing more effort or spending more money will only increase the cost of servicing. So you need to know where you could. There are other ways in which you can optimize, as I said, delivery routes, collection costs, working capital requirements. Some product lines, you can sell a lot more by just having a few quantities in stock. For some other product line, you have 10 pieces, you might sell 1 piece every month. The stocks required, you'll still need to keep 10 pieces because your minimum order is something like that. So understand where is your investment too high, and really question yourself, what is that doing to your overall business? You can't cut away everything, but you can't again say everything is important and keep all those lines. You need to make those judicious calls in terms of that. Okay, so more or less that's what I wanted to cover. I've already talked about the key factors. If you're in an impact business, also look at what are the key delivery of impact. Any last questions that you may have?
Sir, can we just take Maya has been writing a little question. Maya, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I'm in the bone broth business, which is basically about soup. It's something like milk which somebody needs every day. So how does one do the pricing of such a product? Because the market can say 240, but if I multiply by 30, it becomes too expensive for the customer. So how does one then go about pricing something like that?
Sorry, just repeat the first statement. I didn't get what product.
I said I'm in the bone broth business. It's basically a soup.
Soup, okay.
Yeah. So and this can be had every day for its health benefits.
Right.
And so how do I price the product? Because it is a premium product, but at the same time, I can't really charge a premium price. If I multiply by 30 days, it becomes too expensive for the customer, including myself, if I put myself in their shoes. So I'm kind of struggling with
what are your thoughts that you have before I respond?
So I would probably, so what I have done today, and I based my price, there's only one person on Amazon having the same product. So I kind of brought it down. So he's selling it at, I think, 210. I brought it down to 190. Because I'm just experimenting, and I just started about 6 months ago.
So you may have a situation again. I'm not sure if I'll know the full answer to it, but I'm saying, see, while it is possible for somebody to buy every day, in actual practice, is it likely to be bought every day? Right?
Right.
So you may actually find that on an average, a best customer is maybe buying 10 times in a month, right?
Right.
So then you package 10 units of sale in one sale instead of trying to do 30 because 30 is looking too large. So you got to look at the actual consumption and make it affordable to a larger segment so that even the one person who may buy all 30 may still buy 3 lots of 10. But if selling a package of 10 covers most of your customers' requirement, you'd focus on how that 10. So in that situation, 240 multiplied by 10, 2,400, does it look reasonable or not? But don't drop the price of 190 because the one person who's buying 30 finds it expensive, because many customers are maybe buying only once or twice in a month, and they're probably even happy to buy it at 240, or maybe they're even happy to buy at 250 because they're seeing genuine value in your product, right? So again, I would say that price is an important signal, and most often I've had many customers come and tell me, if only your product was this much cheaper, I would buy. And when you try that experiment, they actually don't buy.
That's true.
Most often they are not ready to buy, but they have to give you some reason and they'll say, oh, your price is expensive. And the worst scenario is when you lose that customer who's buying you because you drop the price. And that happens as well. So I want you to be really looking at, it's okay sometimes to let go of 1 or 2 customers who seem like they're contributing a big this thing, but I would rather go after 1,000 customers who are buying packs of 10 than that 5 customers who are buying packs of 30 and they're not very happy. Even for them, I might do a one-off promotion and say, okay, this month buy a pack of 30 for an average cost of 150 or 200, but next month it goes back. Maybe they'll stop buying that month, but 3 months later, I might do another promotion. They might come back, but then after a while, they'll say this product is just too good. I'm stupid to buy it only when it's at a sale. They'll start buying at a regular price. So I think you need to understand and play with consumer behavior. When I say play, I'm not meaning a negative play. You're not taking them for a ride, but you're making it easier. Again, you don't have to satisfy every customer. In fact, I think a good business decision requires you to start or leave some customers alone because they are a huge cost and they are a huge drain on your organization. And once you do that, you're actually finding that because, so let me give you an example from Adidas again. When I moved to Adidas Thailand, Adidas Thailand felt that the lowest price apparel was too expensive and was not catering to the market's pricing requirement. So they had a local sourcing of Adidas apparel to make it more affordable. And unfortunately, what was happening was, because the price was a constraint, the product that we could make was also of a slightly lower quality aesthetic, because the more complex the product, the aesthetic improves, the kind of fabrics that you use. So there was some sales that was happening because we dropped the product, but we were clearly lagging behind Nike in brand image. So we had an overall situation where Nike was the brand image leader and we were the sales leader. But the risk we were facing was that our sales growth was slowing down. Why? It's very obvious, right? So the brand image leader always has a potential for a higher sales growth. So our sales was growing slower than Nike's. Our sales was higher at that point, but there was a risk in 2-3 years' time, Nike would overtake us as the sales leader as well and remain the brand leader as well. So we took a hard decision and said, look, I can't sell what I can make. I need to make what the customers want. If I can, I'll price it a little bit cheaper on that particular line, but I'll make up my margins overall, because not every product needs to have the same margin, right? So the volume business usually has a slightly lower margin than the image products. So I sell some products for image, I charge a higher price, I make less margin. Some products are volume products, I price them a little bit more attractive so that the volumes make up for the overall profit. And within 2 years, we were both the brand leader and the sales leader, and our growth continued to grow faster than Nike. And it's a hard decision. I mean, it's a scary decision. Do you drop almost potentially 15-20% of your business line by dropping those local production? So we said, okay, we'll manage with some better international products, price them a little bit lower, lose a little bit margin temporarily. But over a period of time, we were able to both be sales leaders and brand leaders. Hopefully that gives you some kind of an answer. It's not a perfect
It answered
answer.
my question, because a lot of clients were buying for 6 days and then they take a break and then they come back. So I think I was bringing down my price thinking of 30 days, but I think you've given me the absolutely spot on clarity. Thanks so much, Mr. Kannan.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm done. I'm already 9 minutes over on the timeline. Hope it was useful for you. I think I had my contact details. In case any of you want to reach out, feel free. I'll try to respond. If I'm busy, I'll tell you how you can reach out to me. But those are my phone numbers and my email.
So just wanted to say hi and thank you so much. This is Pratibha here. You've mentored me.
Thanks for the feedback. Really
And
appreciate that.
it was amazing, sir, as usual.
Thank you.
So I think we've already overshooted on our time.
Thanks, Madhulika, for the opportunity. Really appreciate inviting me to have this conversation and share some of my learnings. Hopefully, some of it was useful to at least some of you, and you'll be able to try some of it, experiment, and see what happens. Don't be afraid to experiment. I think business is all about experiments. As an entrepreneur, it's about making assumptions, trying them in the market, seeing the feedback, and then making further refinements to those actions in the market.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful session. It was a very spot on and a very required session for our members.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so
I'm
much, sir. Thanks.
leaving the call now. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye. And a great weekend too.
Thank you, everyone, for joining the session. It was today the session was so long that we could not have a very interactive session, but I hope that a few of your questions were answered.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Madhulika.
Madhulika. Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madhulika. That was really
Please, I
amazing.
have another request. I have put in the feedback form. I don't get a lot of responses on the feedback form. I just get a 20-25 people filling it up. I would request that everyone who attends the session, please fill it up. It helps us to plan our classes and our sessions more nicely for you guys.
Yeah, we would do that.
I put it on the WhatsApp group also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
Madhulika.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. Have a good weekend, everyone.